I'm Diego Cordovez.
Adam Schoenfeld.
Welcome to The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. Today we have a young man named David Benefield. I say the name because I often forget to say the guest's name. And people who follow the online poker, the huge games, they know that he's a champion of the big games, playing for these very high stakes with a lot of success.
He's a super young guy who plays at the highest levels against the best competition. But to me, the interesting thing about him is he writes a blog, and he's very thoughtful about what goes on in poker.
So he'll be a thoughtful, analytical fellow. And to me, if they don't win these documents on TV, I don't know who they are.
Yeah, I don't think they're worthy, but we'll see what he has to say about that.
Now, they just aired the main event of the World Series, and briefly they showed your elimination. You'd made a deep run down to the final 100 players, and you also had two near-final tables this year, the World Series. Now, with all your success online, the big cash games, which people track and follow, are these tournaments important?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't play them if they weren't important. You know, I really enjoy playing tournaments. It's something different that I don't get to do every day, especially during the World Series. It's really exciting. You know, I've always wanted to win a bracelet. You know, every kid that comes up, you know, saw Chris Moneymaker or whatever win, is like, oh, that's so cool. I want to do that. And so yeah, I mean, I put a lot of effort in the tournaments, and I really enjoy playing them, and I really want to win one.
I've noticed from reading your blog that you've written about being frustrated that you haven't broken through with a huge tournament first place yet. Is that still on your mind?
Yeah, I mean, it's always on my mind. I mean, every time I play a tournament, I want to win it, you know, just like everybody else. But, yeah, it's definitely on my mind. I wish I had a win.
Do you ever think that it's not worth the frustration and dealing with the stuff that goes on in tournaments?
Well, I mean, there definitely is a lot of, you know, drama and just all this other stuff behind tournaments you don't get from, you know, playing poker online or whatever. But I can't say if it's worth it or not. You know, I haven't won anything yet, but I'm going to keep doing it until I do. So
I mean, one of the things that when I play, I rarely play live tournaments, but I play the main event, and I get super frustrated with the antics of people who are doing things.
Oh God, yeah!
Just
I mean, everybody's such a drama queen about everything.
Right, and you know, calling for cards and you know, robot dance.
Yeah.
That like annoys me to where I play very few live events.
I mean, I get frustrated just playing live, even though, of course, for years and years, I only played live before the internet came along. But for someone who's really learned to play on the internet, the very different pace of live
slow
play,
pace, 20 hands
well,
an hour.
I mean, actually, like
I
I'm sorry to interrupt you guys. I started playing live before I played online. I played in like live underground games, probably 3 or 4 times a week, like 1-2-0 of a game for probably about a year and a half before I ever started playing online. So I feel like, you know, for the people in my age group or whatever, that everybody started online, I feel like I do have a little bit more experience at live poker. But
the one thing that's really different is, in terms of just recognition, to the extent that that's important to someone, it used to be that tournaments were the one public avenue to really kind of achieve a certain public image.
Right.
And there were cash game players who were making millions who were virtually anonymous. Now with the internet, databases are tracking all the players, and guys, including you, have become, you know, folk heroes to some extent to a whole crowd of guys who follow the big games online.
The rail aficionados.
The rail aficionados, as you call them.
I'm sorry, magazine rail aficionado.
that's nice.
But it is different in the sense that I can understand the appeal of winning a tournament. It's like such a great experience. But on the other hand, even without playing tournaments, you can establish your reputation. And in a sense, it's a more valuable reputation. I mean, anyone can win a tournament, but to consistently beat the live games, you know, the cash games is...
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, it's viewed differently. You know, I mean, the cash game players, you know, are like, oh, all tournament players suck, and tournament players are like, oh, I can beat those cash game guys, whatever. So, I mean, it's just, everybody has their niche or whatever, and it's just...
I'm sorry.
No?
You had written something in your blog that I thought was one of the best ideas I've ever read, and I think about it constantly. It was about... the account name changing controversy, and you suggested that there should be games online where all you see is just the stack size.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Can you elaborate on that? Because I think that's the best idea I've heard in months.
Well, I mean, there's been all this problems or whatever lately with people changing, you know, account names, multi-accounting, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, not having, that is one of the problems with not having a name. The whole multi-accounting issue would be harder to track, that kind of thing. But just as far as, you know, games in general, more games would get started, you know, more heads-up games would run, more everything would run if you didn't know who you were playing. And I think that would be really neat. I mean, obviously it's not, oh, people complain, oh, that's not poker, you know, when you play live, you get to look at the guy in the face, and this is, you know, pulling even farther away from that. But I do think it would be a good thing overall for online poker.
I mean, when you used to play live, a lot of times, let's say you travel to a new city, you didn't know who the people were, you just know their stack sizes, and you figure out how they play by playing with them.
Right.
And this, one of the problems now you see is that there'll be, a dozen high-stakes tables, and there's one guy sitting at each.
Yeah, it's awful.
Now, it's understandable, I'll just pick a name at random, but like a very good player, Phil Galfine, do you need to bash your head against the wall playing him if you know it's him? No, and he doesn't need to play against you.
Right.
But if you didn't know, that would be a game starter.
Yeah, you'd play him, and everybody would probably do something kind of goofy at first, to make it look like they're a little fishy. So
right.
Both players would be giving off, all these impressions.
There'd be strategies that everyone could exploit or exploit better than others.
Right, and it would just be. It would be different. It would be interesting, and I think it's something that should be tried.
And now, the one downside that I see, which you touched upon, is thanks to our friends at Absolute Poker and Ultimate Bet,
thanks.
it's like the one way that those thieves were caught is because people could observe and watch the behaviors of specific accounts.
Yep.
So,
that's a big risk in online poker.
Right. It would have to be done on sites that are super well trusted, and you'd have to rely on the sites to do the policing for you. What do you
Which
think
is in
about
their
that?
interest to do, and that's really they have the technology to do it, and that way they could track each person's account. In some ways, if they did have these anonymous players, it would make it easier for the sites to track, because now there wouldn't be the motivation for people to try to set up accounts in other people's names or anything like that.
Or play a friend's account.
Yeah,
right.
And they'd be able to track individual players.
Had you heard that idea before?
I had not. I like it.
It's interesting to think
the reason that I was impressed by
it.
The reason I was impressed by it is because there are very few original ideas that you see. It's like, and this one hit me over the head.
It does get to the issue which you brought up here, which is that there aren't games started. There is kind of a drying up of the higher limit games. Now, part of the problem is, and Adam's brought this up a bunch of times, people have to open the store. There seems to be a new culture which is more, I think players now are more sophisticated, less just gamblers because they like to gamble, more because it's an opportunity. They take it
with
more,
all the training sites and everything, people are really breaking down everything, trying to get really good at the game.
They take it more professionally. They're more disciplined about game selection and so forth. But the flip side is that instead of players playing each other and maybe starting a game and other guys wanting to jump in,
trying to attract fish by having a game already,
the games just don't get going.
Right.
People think, well, if good players are playing, then no one will ever come. But if good players are playing and some of them take bad beats, and now they're playing a lot of hands or they're off their game,
be quite such a good player at that time.
The
only way to get started is get a game started is to play. It's so often in the six-max games, especially you'll have 4 or 5 tables with all the same people, but no one will sit for 5 minutes and play heads up to get another table started.
Right.
That kind of thing happens all the time, and it's not good.
Now, do you find that the Hold'em is still pretty dry, and that PLO is now the...
At the nosebleeds, no one's been picking up. They opened up, the Rail Heaven tables, and now they have Gus Heaven, and so that's pretty cool. And
what is the Rail Heaven? How is that different?
They used to have just they
used to just have 200,
Ivy
400.
Pleasure Dome.
Ivy Thunderdome, 501 KD.
Right.
Pleasure Dome, I like it.
Yeah, I just like to twist it a little.
The one thing you mentioned about the trading sites is interesting. This is kind of the reverse in terms of the old school versus the new school, because the old school maybe was more gambling oriented.
They'd never explain it to anyone.
Absolutely not. We had Eric Seidel on, and when they first started televising poker, he wouldn't even show his hole cards. He would hide the hole cards. And the idea of him doing a training video in which he talked about a session, honestly, is anathema.
We used to tease about that. We said, Eric Seidel's Secrets of No Limit Hold'em would be no pages, because he won't reveal anything.
It'd be an empty.
But now
empty
with
book.
Sites like Card Runners that you're affiliated with, that is a revolution.
It's a complete revolution, and guys are playing for real, talking about every hand, and unlike TV where you're seeing a selection of hands and not getting context, you're seeing hand selection. And
an entire session watching a high-limit player is so valuable.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
To more of an old-timer like me, is that just crazy? Is it just good for poker, but
honestly, I'm not sure how good it is for poker. It's not great for the people that don't want to put in the work to get good. It's great if you're willing to take a lot of time and effort into improving your game. This is a great resource for it. When I first started playing online, there wasn't really any training sites. Card Runners was around, but they did one video a week, that kind of thing. And it was at sometimes it'd be limit, sometimes it'd be no limit. And I played sit and goes. I was like, I don't care about those stupid training sites, whatever. And so the way we got good was just always talking with our friends, over Instant Messenger or whatever, constantly posting hand histories on 2+2, that kind of thing. That's the way we got good, was by sharing information and taking advantage of the internet and that kind of thing. And I guess the old school, they didn't have that ability, so everybody just kind of kept to themselves. Maybe had one or two friends they've shared with.
Right.
I think it's an interesting point that it's one thing to put the videos out there, but it does take a lot of focus. And first of all, you have to watch the videos, and you have to pay attention and think about what's said. It's not just an automatic.
Yeah, you can't just watch it and then it'll be good.
Right. It's not like watching a sitcom. You get a few laughs.
Right.
And
it's like, oh, that's kind of entertaining. Cool. Now let me go crush high stakes.
Right.
I always felt like with books, that was 100% the case. For every person who really improved and became more of a threat, 10 got the wrong message out of it, and they were people you wanted to play. When Doyle Brunson wrote Super System, some people became great players, or it helped them to become great players. Other people just got certain lessons out of it, the wrong lessons.
Yeah.
I'm just always moving in. I'm just always trying these plays. I play suited connectors anytime.
Jack 10's the most
that
powerful
book
hand.
at the time, it must have been great for poker, because the nitty people that were just sit there like, oh, Doyle wins a lot, I'm going to splash them.
Right, absolutely.
And, they weren't as good at reading hands, whatever, and they get crushed.
Doyle calls a big race with 6-7 suited out of position.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that.
Sure, why not?
But with is it the same with the trading sites where some people are talented and disciplined and they're getting a lot of knowledge, and other people are just watching this? It seems like with the trading sites, there's a better chance that you do educate a lot of people, whether they put the work in or not.
Right. I guess that's kind of the point, the reason why they're so successful. It is a lot easier to get better, watching a really good high-stakes no-limit player play every hand, break down his thought process, why he's doing things, than, reading a book. You can only get so much out of a book. You have to use your own skills, your own reasoning, whatever. But when you're just having someone tell you exactly what they're doing and why, you're going to get a lot more out of it.
And you can just copy them, in essence.
Right. You can mimic it. And even I've heard about, the 1-2 no-limit games, the 50-cent dollar no-limit games. All these people are playing, 22-18 pre-flop because they saw that in a video. So, everybody's, the same. They're just, they're grinding out the low, mid stakes no-limit. And they're all very similar players.
One of the things I've noticed is that there are many good players, even at those limits. I play $1, $2 no limit on full tilt sometimes, and I play $2, $4 no limit. Up through the limits. I don't go higher than 10-20, and I don't play that often. But there are really good players, in the 1-2 as well as the 10-20, and certainly up at the higher.
Yeah.
And it used to not be that way. A long time ago, in the lower limits,
a long time ago, 5 years ago.
Yeah, it would be rare to find
way back.
It would be rare to find someone who really knew anything in the $1, $2 game. And now there are guys making a living at it, and I think that's because of the training sites.
I think so, and the multi-tabling makes it practical. Obviously, the reason why that wasn't the case before was that nobody could play low limit and make a living because the limits were just too low.
Right.
Now, if you play 12 tables, it doesn't matter. It may be low limit. There's enough volume to actually make a living. And the other thing, again, is you've got guys who are young, who are maybe in high school or in college. Their bankrolls are still small, but they're very sharp. And those are the limits they're playing, but it's not because that's the only capability they have.
Now, David,
scary.
Yeah, it is scary. You've talked about how you have not found ultimate satisfaction in poker. And you were looking to do a bunch of different things, You are considering becoming a baseball coach.
Yeah, trying.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the whole baseball coach thing, I played pretty much my whole life, and I was always pretty good. I was scouted for a few teams or whatever for college, and I was planning on playing college. I had a shoulder injury my senior year, and I guess that's when I got more involved with online poker, and so I kind of just went off into that. But I've always really just enjoyed baseball. I enjoy working with people and helping people improve. And I think it's something that I could get a lot out of. And so I put in an application at my old high school where I went. I met with the athletic director, and if we can make a JV team, hopefully I'll be involved in that. I think it'd be good.
There used to be such a stigma about gambling. Where people didn't even want to let people know they were poker players or professional gamblers. In terms of coaching youths, impressionable youths. Has there been any feedback wow, this might not be the influence that we want or something like that?
Actually, the head
have all the kids playing online poker and with their dad's credit cards or something.
That's something I thought about. They're probably going to ask a whole lot about that kind of thing, and I mean, I'm going to be honest, and I'm just going to try to give them my thoughts as best I can, explain to them, situations, that kind of thing. If they want to learn to play poker, I mean, I think they should. I mean, that's what I did. I mean, it's I'm sure it's going to be a little controversial. I'm sure the parents aren't going to be super happy about that, but
there's always going to be one nut.
There's always going to be some crazy person who's like, oh, degenerate gambler or plays those drugs too.
Right, exactly. And you'll have to deal with that.
Right.
And you've been thinking about going to school as well?
Yeah, I've actually looked at a few schools. I'm going to be applying, I guess, by the end of the year, and probably going back next fall.
And you were looking at the Great Books program?
Yeah, I was.
See, that is something. Did you ever meet a poker player who's considering just studying the Great Books?
I like it. Super System.
Right.
The theory of poker.
Right. Those are all in the curriculum.
Yeah.
I just want to touch on a few of the other outside interests. Now, you train in Jiu-jitsu, is that right?
Yeah, I've been doing that in 5 months or so.
Do you go to Extreme Couture? What gym do you go to?
I work at Extreme Couture.
I went there to the beginning Jiu-jitsu class one time.
How'd it go?
I'm probably, I'll tell you. I'm twice your age and relatively out of shape. But, I'm not like obese or anything. Yeah. So I went, and that was one of the hardest hours of my life. Yeah. And it took all my energy, not to give up, but which I didn't, which I'm proud of.
Good.
But most of the hour consisted of Chip Jet, who's also a Red Pro on Full Tilt, beating me up. Because he was also there. But for survival, Chip and I had to fight each other because even the other, this is the beginner's class. Right. Those guys would have killed me. I'm trying to be dead if I had fought them. But you weren't there that day, luckily.
Well, the thing is, one thing I've wondered, and I've asked guys who've come on the show, now there's so much money in poker, and you can make so much money much quicker. It's attracted a lot of people who never would have come into poker. And now you've got some guys who, they really are challenged by the game, and they make a lot of money. Other guys seem to appreciate that this is a chance to make a lot of money. They don't necessarily love playing as much, and they look at it as a means to an end, thinking, wow, this is fantastic, I can work really hard. It's like being an investment banker for 10 years, work all night, but then retire and have enough money to do something else. And guys go on and they found charities or they become teachers or whatever. I mean, it may be too simplistic to just say that there are only those two paths. It's probably a combination of the two for everyone, but do you fall into one of those two where the poker's a means to an end, or is the poker a way of defining yourself?
I mean, this isn't an easy question to answer. I mean, when I first started playing, I really loved playing. It was probably the greatest thing ever, and I think you have to go through that phase. I played 12 hours a day, 7 days a week for a whole year. I mean, I just never stopped playing. All I would do is I'd think about the game, I would talk to all my friends, post tons of hand histories, and you really have to immerse yourself, I think, to become great. And if you start into it with the attitude I'm just doing this to make money, it's not that fun, whatever, I don't think you're going to be successful. I think to truly be good, you have to really love the game. And do I love it as much as I used to? No. I mean, I still really enjoy playing. The money's great, obviously. It gives me the opportunity to hang out with a ton of my friends. I live out here in Vegas now, and it's really great. It's giving me a wealth of opportunities, and I'm very thankful for it.
But the thing is, kind of the corollary is that it's so much easier to burn out because, again, in the old days, people play marathon sessions, but especially high stakes, there wasn't a high stakes game all the time. And even when you played it, there was kind of a social aspect just because of the pace of the game and so forth. With the internet now, you get on a roll, you don't want to quit, you're playing multi-tables, you're playing you say 12 hours a day, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you want to play tournaments, you've got tournaments starting every 5 minutes. Yeah. It's a lot easier just to burn out. Now, it's hard to tell if you're burning out, but I just wonder whether we'll see a lot of superstars, guys who've had success for the last couple of years, just disappear the next couple of years before they're 25,
I can definitely see it happening. It's way easier to burn out. You're playing 20, 30, 40, 100 times as many hands, and maybe not 100, but some guys, you're playing just such a ridiculous volume of hands that, it's got to cause some kind of burnout. I'm not, sure on the whole psychological aspect of it, but it definitely can't be as good as sitting there and, playing 20 hands an hour with a social aspect, being around people you can talk with. That's got to be a better situation overall for your sanity, at least.
Thanks for joining us on The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. David Benefield, proved to be very thoughtful, as you said. We're going to invite him back for a second appearance.
We will grant him a second.
We're going to give him a chance to earn a little more money by coming on as a guest in part 2.
He has to get his hourly from Full Tilt.
So join us on The Scoop next week for part 2 with David Benefield.
Two bracelets. Awesome.
Well, you know, these aren't easy to win. I remember this one like it was yesterday. My opponent had me down to my left. Sorry. Anyway, it's down to my last few chips. So, I had to call.
We play at FullTiltPoker.com.